Hi fam, it is I, Smriti of House. I don't know what day it is anymore because it's just life is, I don't know. Anyway, I am here today with a wrap up, a mid month wrap up because I've actually been reading quite a bit. As you all must know if you watched any of my previous videos, it is Asian Readathon month hosted by Read with Cindy, which I will link here. I don't know why I keep doing this, but I mean, whatever. She is a cool person, and I have done a TBR video in the past where I spoke about the books that I wanted to read. I have read some of those books. In fact, I have read about 7.5 books so far in this month, from the 1st to the 16th. I'm halfway through my 8th book, so that's cool. I have in this time read five Asian books and two colonizer books. And by that I mean two books from the people in the UK, the authors from the UK or Australia. So, yeah, basically colonizers, I guess. I mean, kinda, joke. Alright, so before we begin with the wrap up, I wanted to tell you about some of the stats of the month. So, as I said, I read about 7.5, but I'm gonna count about 7 books. I have read 4 male authors and 3 female authors. I've read about 6,000 pages, which is amazing. And I have read 3 4.5 stars, 1 3.5 star, 2 3 stars, and 1 2.5 star. And I feel like I should explain to you what my starring system per se is. I just follow the Goodreads starring system where 5 is I loved it, 4 is I really liked it, 3 is I liked it, 2 is it was okay, and 1 is I didn't like it. So if it's a point 0.5, it's between, like, say for example, really liked and loved. Like, it's not quite at love just yet, but I know it's a little more than really liked. So I hope you get what that is. So the first book I read was I Remember Abbu by Humanyun Azad. This was a really wonderful read, and I gave it about 4.5 stars. The story is told through the eyes of a child, and is told of the relationship that the child has with the father, and from the very beginning of, like, before the child was even born. And it's just so wonderful because the father is just such a nice, amazing human being. He's a professor in a university in Bangladesh, but at the same point of time you kind of understand what the freedom struggle was for Bangladesh as well, and because that's when this book is set. It talks about their struggle for independence and also their struggle for cultural identity, which is what kind of started the whole thing. And I just thought it was wonderfully written. There was so much of innocence, but at the same point of time it was so informative, and it was such a short read, and I really loved it. The second book I read was Loveboat Taipei by Abigail Hing. This book was something I was kind of hesitant to get into because I had heard a lot of mixed reviews about it, and after reading it, I kind of understood where they're coming from. So, this story is of Eva Wong. She is a Chinese American girl who has some very strict parents. So, she wants to be a dancer, but her parents want her to be, what is that in my mouth? Anyway, wants her to be a pre-med doctor, wants to for her to be a doctor essentially. And while she does want to dance, that's not something that they see her doing because they don't think it's a legitimate career or will bring, fortune and prestige to the family, which is a very, like, Asian sort of trait, I feel. So I kind of understood where that was coming from. But what happens is that they then send her to Taiwan for a study abroad program, and in that program, it turns out it's not as strict as she thought it would be. It's just kind of like love boaty, so it's kind of like Love Island of sorts, like Bachelor, but in one, so it's a lot of sex and I don't know, scandals and all of that sort of stuff. So, the book was sold to me as Gossip Girl meets study abroad program. So that's basically what this was. There was a lot of, as I said, sex. There was a lot of insta lovey sort of stuff. It wasn't like, actually, it wasn't like graphic sex. Like, you didn't see anything happen. But yeah, as I said, there was a lot of insta lovey stuff, which I don't know if I appreciated so much. And there was like a lot of scandal, a lot of um what is the word? What is the word? Toxicity. There was a lot of toxicity, and just like, but I read this book in a day because I was just like, okay, just tell me what's gonna happen next, and that's essentially what happened. And it was still like a okay read if you could get over all of these aspects, and or if you like these aspects, then you love the book. I particularly didn't, so I gave this book a 2.5 star. The third book I read is Chosen Spirits by Samit Basu. Now, this is a new Indian book, which is science fiction. I really love this book. This book I gave about 4.5 to 5 stars probably. I just really enjoyed it. Samit Basu is India's foremost fantasy science fiction writer, and is just like the nicest human being ever. So I was really looking forward to reading this book, and as soon as it came out, I was just like, "Yep, I'm reading it," and I do not regret it at all. The story is set, I think, a few, I don't even know when this is set, but like a few years down the line, where and it talks about Joey, who is this reality controller. She essentially is kind of like a producer for an influencer who live streams his life, but that's just what social media etc is right now, where you have like reality shows um of your life which you just put out there. But at the same point of time, it's just so interesting because essentially this person could be like, their interest could be catered to whatever you like. So for example, if you like reading, then this person would be like super into reading. But if you like, say for example, yoga, then this person could be very into yoga. So they kind of make this based on like whatever your needs are, and you can see just what you like, which I think is just like a very exaggerated version of like current life right now, based on like what you see with Facebook and Instagram and just all of that sort of stuff. And even the world that you're present in is just a very, I wouldn't say dystopia, because it's just like turned a few notches up from where we are right now. So it's set in Delhi. Smog is insane. You can't step out at all, which is sort of where we are at also right now. Um, and it's just crazy the way it's done. There's basically, this book has a lot of stuff going on in it, which I still really appreciated. I love the world building. I loved, there were so many parts of it that I just had to keep highlighting because I was just like, damn, this sounds like our world if we don't get up and start doing something about it. So it didn't really feel dystopian in that way. And essentially this this book follows Joey through some sex scandals again, but this was like well done. And then there's like a hostile takeover, and it's also about discovering the underbelly of this world. And I just thought it was so well done and so wonderfully written, because just chef's kiss, seriously. And yeah, I the ending was a little open ended, which I appreciated, so I'm really hoping there is a sequel. This book is available in India on Kindle, and I think is available in the rest of the world on Kindle Unlimited, which is basically like free. So go check it out. It is a really really well written book, and I promise you will not regret it. And then the fourth book I read was Braised Pork by An Yu, who is a Chinese author. I enjoyed this book. I gave it a 3.5 star. I thought the writing was stunning. There were so many parts which I just highlighted because I thought it was really well written. But back to what the story is actually about. The book follows Gia, who is a woman of about, I think, mid 30s, and she's just lost her husband. Her husband was found in the tub, half submerged, and next to him, she finds like this drawing of a half fish, half man, which is basically like the top half is man and the bottom half is fish. And she's confused by it and she's taken by it and she doesn't quite know what that means. And she's confused by his death because there's no apparent reason why he died. And just the story follows her as she kind of tries to figure out what happened, and also at the same point of time what this drawing is. Because what happens is that she gets taken into the dream world that it is. So she's taken into the sea, the world. Oh wait, what is it? The Yeah, the world water, where she's like, it's floating in it and it's just darkness all around. And I think personally that it is an allegory for depression. And just if you read it and then you understand it, and it's just so well done. But yeah, so basically she tries to understand what this fishman drawing is, and at the same point of time she kind of tries to figure out new relationships slash try to figure out what's happening with the relationships that she has with her family and just all of that sort of stuff. And I thought it was really well done. The reason why I gave it a 3.5 star is because it doesn't really have a linear plot per se, and I'm not a person who really has a problem with that. But the problem that I did have, however, was that it there was a point when a lot of you had a lot of questions, but then all those questions were answered by one thing, and I am not a fan of that at all. So that kind of put a dampener on things, but I really like this book. I'm looking forward to reading more books by our new books. I think she writes really well, so check it out. And then the fifth book I read was Man Tiger by Eka Kurniwan. This is a book by an Indonesian author, and again, it's really short. It's about 172 pages. And the blurb doesn't really say much, so I don't know what I can say without giving you too many spoilers. But essentially, the story is of um this boy called Marr, who is possessed or has a supernatural white tiger attached to him. And then in the first chapter, you hear of this very, very gruesome incident that happens, and then you kind of follow the family history of Margio, how he gets this tiger. And this is actually linked to an Indonesian folklore wherein they say that like a man was married to a tiger many years ago, and then this tiger protects their village or this family through generations, and it's kind of passed down. So this tiger belonged to his grandfather and then is passed down to him. um I thought this book was well written. I liked it, but I didn't love it. So I gave it a 3 star. I was a little. There is a lot of there is a trigger warning for domestic abuse, so just be aware of that. And I didn't particularly love the way women were sort of treated, but I guess you could kind of say that this was written a while back and this was set in a rural setting, so you shouldn't really be surprised by it. But what I was surprised by was the way women actually took charge of their sexuality as well in this book, and were just supremely sexual beings, and they were just like they took full onus of it, and I loved that. So that was really cool to read in this book. And yeah, it was a short read. I liked it, and check it out. And that's kind of a wrap for the Asian books that I read. I am reading Other Moons, which is an anthology of Vietnamese short stories. about the American War, not the Vietnamese War. Which in the introduction, there's this line about, which basically says that Vietnam, first and foremost, is a country and not a war, because everyone just says, oh, a Vietnam War, the Nam War, and I don't know. And for Vietnam, it's like it was the American War. That's what happened. And I'm really liking it so far. So I'll tell you more about it in, I guess, my next wrap up video. But yeah, I thought I should just touch upon it in this one. Now, the last two books were thriller reads, and they were written by UK authors and people who now live in Australia. So not really Asian readathon stuff, but I was really intrigued by them, so I definitely thought I needed to give them a shot. So I did. The first one is Lies. What Lies Between Us by John Marr. And now this was a book that I thought was really intriguing, and I really wanted to read it. And then Gabby Reeds was talking about it, and I was just like, you know what, like fuck it, just read it. So I did, and I was really taken by it. I read it in a day because it was just so fast paced. The book is about Maggie and Nina, and Nina has kept Maggie captive, and we don't know why, and we don't know the relationship that they shared initially. And I'm not really going to tell you what it is because there are spoilers, and there are so many spoilers because there are so many things that happen in this book that just go like, what? It's crazy. I, of course, guessed a lot of them because I think I'm smart. But also, I mean, I'm just very cynical as a human being, so, you know. But I thought it was really well written. Um, the chapters were really small, so it really kept you wanting more, and like with each kind of like 20 to 30 pages, something really like twisted or wicked would happen, and you were like, what? And yeah, it kind of went between Nina and Maggie, so you got this. Oh yeah, so basically both of them seem like extremely unreliable narrators. Okay, so you don't know exactly who is right and who is wrong. You just think both of them are fucking nuts. And it goes between the timeline of now and like 25 years ago and maybe like 2 years ago. So it tells you, it gives you an understanding of why they are where they are right now. And yeah, it was just an interesting read. I really liked it, but at the same point of time, I felt like there was something missing. Maybe because I kind of guessed a lot of it, but still, I thought it was a great read, and I think people should definitely check it out because it's one of those. It was just, I don't have words. And then the last book that I read was The Safe Place by Anna Downs. This was also a thriller, and I thought I gave this a 3 star. And I will tell you why. This book is follows Emily, who is a struggling actress who works as a temp in a company. They also tell the story through her and Scott, who is a successful hedge fund manager, and Emily works in his company. She gets fired, and then Scott basically hires her to be his housekeeper slash, I don't know, nanny of sorts in his house in France, so that she could basically give company to his wife and his child. Now, through the book, you know that there is something supremely fishy about things because you see things from both people's perspective, and you're just like, this doesn't feel right. So that feeling of like unsettlement is there throughout, which I thought was very well done. But what I didn't like about this book is that ultimately I just didn't care about any of the characters. It just didn't give me much, and also, yeah, it was kind of predictable, but it was still a fun ride, and I liked it, so I gave it a 3 star. So that's about it. And this book was given to me by Ned Galley. Thank you, Ned Galley. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. That is my mid-May wrap up. I read a lot this month and so far, and I'm hoping that the next part of this month also continues. I will of course be continuing with my Asian readathon, but of course in between I will probably read some other random books. So yeah, stay tuned and subscribe and have a good day. Bye.